Hello, everyone. The day has finally come. Miss Christina Aguilera has released her sixth studio album, her first in 5.5 years, following 2012's Lotus. Her new album is titled Liberation, and it is out today, June 15th, 2018. I'm going to be doing a review of this record. Before I get into this, I will state that I am not the hugest Christina Aguilera fan. This is the first time I'm covering her on this channel as an album. I'm not even entirely sure if I'm going to go back and actually review her past records, just because there's always been standout songs on them, but they're not albums I've ever really fully listened to and never really felt compelled to do so. That may change, and this album has definitely perked my ears up. However, it was also a lot of hype. When an artist is absent for so long and then they return, it creates all of this buildup around something that otherwise maybe wouldn't be quite as exciting if it wasn't because of that long absence. That's just part of the game, and you can't fault Christina for that. I mean, she's been really busy. This is her sixth album, so she can take some time out if she needs. She was being a mom, she was doing The Voice, taking a step back, and now she's going back on tour. She's finally getting back into what she truly loves to do, which is to perform. And this album is definitely a great album, I think, for her to return with, and especially with a title like Liberation. She talks about this record being about fully showing your soul, fully expressing yourself, feeling freed from any sort of oppression. Now, these might seem a little bit like general or cliche kind of themes for most artists that have this sort of theme. It's one that, maybe because of just, again, like I said, the long-awaited comeback feels kind of liberating. We're, like, liberated from the long drought from Christina. But other than that, I don't necessarily get such a huge influence on that theme on this record, only in parts. This album is very soul-touching, and it is very contemplative in parts, but it is also, celebratory, and it is also carefree and raunchy at parts, like I would expect it to be. It's a blend of all the styles that Christina has employed in the past. This album Stripped does come to mind. I do think that this album definitely harkens back to that one. The album cover shows her makeup free. It's a simplistic album cover. For me, it's almost a little too simplistic. I've noticed that a lot of artists are getting their album covers are becoming like a little bit less like creatively put together. And don't get me wrong, I love like the makeup free look. I love all that kind of concept, but also it's an album cover. Like, you have a chance to do something truly like extraordinary and make a piece of visual art to attach with this record. That being said, it's just an album cover. I'm not madly in love with it. I think it does carry, that soulful kind of emotional kind of lust that she's going after in the way she's looking at the camera. So I think it definitely satisfies its need, but I don't know. Sometimes I think album covers they're underutilized as art forms from a lot of artists, especially nowadays. This album opens on a very grandiose, sweeping orchestral crescendo that is the title track. Mixed in with the voice of her child, Summer Rain. It's a very haunting way to start to draw you in. I wish it was a little bit longer because I feel like there's a lot of interludes on this record, and I'm not the biggest fan of interludes when they are sold as individual tracks on iTunes. I feel like it's a bit of a cheap way to sell a record. It's sort of like, I'm gonna pay $1.29 for a 30-second song. And like, I understand maybe you wanna keep it separate from the track, but I just feel like those songs should be heavily discounted. It just doesn't really make any sense for you to pay full price for a 30-second track. There's a lot of interludes on this record, and that is just something that makes it frustrating because this is not a record I wanna buy every single song from. And I do like the interludes, but I'm also not going to pay for them because, again, like I said, if they were attached to the actual song itself, a lot of artists do that as well, and I do prefer that. So this is an album where I do kind of wish the interludes were just weaved into the actual songs themselves, because the interludes carry a lot of meaning to the song that precedes them, and I really like that, and you miss out a little bit on the drama that this album plays out with without having the interludes. but at the same time, like, I'm not gonna buy them. So we have Searching for Maria. Now, as you may know, Maria is Christina's middle name, and she uses the sound of music as inspiration, as a muse to sort of ponder her own sort of existential kind of musings. Searching for Maria, you know, that iconic song from The Sound of Music that we all know. And it carries the liberation, I think, meaning the best. And I love how her vocals really soar at the end when she sings Maria in an almost operatic tone to then seek into the actual track Maria. This is the first full-length official song on this record. Maria is a bombastic, I know I use that word a lot, but I just love it, self-proclamatory track, which samples Michael Jackson as a youngster singing Maria over and over, which I think is so cool, the way she weaves that in. However, the melody finds its footing eventually, but there's a trap-like production style utilized. Now, this is a theme that permeates a lot of this record. There's a lot of trap music kind of inspired hip-hop beats, almost making it sound like she's going to rap instead of sing over these. And this isn't necessarily new, because I mean, that's been done for a lot of like big pop acts for a long time, but it's something that's not quite so to my taste. And so that turns me off a little bit to this song. I think like if the beat structure was just a little bit different, I would get into the orchestral production of it more and the lush vocal, you know, bombasts that she serves on this record. At the end, she kind of presents this hushed sing/talking vocal as she sings like "Where is Maria" in a very forlorn way, which I'm not entirely sure if I'm sold on. I feel like it's a little bit underwhelming to hear her not vocalize to her fullest ability, to be a lot more refined and to sound a little bit tired. So that vocal outro I'm not entirely in love with the chimes, but otherwise it's a solid track and it definitely amps up the energy like what we need when we're entering into an album like this. Sick of Sittin', the next track. Now this is definitely a track that catches you off guard. The production is very almost industrial. There's a lot going on. It's very fast-paced. And it definitely harkens back to some very true, like, diva vocal performances of the past, like Tina Turner, for example. And I'm, again, not 100% sold on this song because maybe it's just not so much my style, but it feels like there's a little bit too much going on. I ain't built for no fake, don't play me, I raise kids, just be thankful I gave you this because I don't need it. Don't try to tell me I'm crazy, it's good pay, but it's slavery. I can't live with these chains on me, I have to get free. So you can tell that, you know, and because it's got a gospel undertone, that there's almost a, you know, voice for the repressed, oppressed peoples kind of theme coming through that's beyond just her own existential liberation. I'm sick of sitting, been working too hard to not to be living. This is a theme that I think anyone who is grinding on the 9 to 5 constantly and not really feeling like they're going anywhere or they're missing out on other important aspects of their life. You know, of course, if you're working really hard, you're probably not sitting down a lot, but that doesn't necessarily conflate. You know, it's the watching life pass by and not enjoying it as much as you should and being overworked. This is definitely an anthem for the millennial generation. Overworked and underpaid. I make it a policy not to tell anybody to sit down. I just still encourage everybody else to stand up. Very important to do so. The call to action, and it's very rousing as you would expect it to be. So Dreamers is this beautiful interlude where she has all of these young little girls saying what they want to be when they grow up and what it means to be a girl, or what it means to be a woman. It's so moving and emotional hearing all of these youngsters of a huge diverse array of background just speaking about empowerment for women. And it leads into Fall in Line, which is the biggest feminist anthem on this record and one of the most epic songs, I think, on this album. And hearing that interlude going into Fall in Line makes Fall in Line even stronger. Unfortunately, like I said, I'm not going to pay for Dreamers because it's 30 seconds long, and I'm not going to pay $1.29 for a 30-second song, but it's definitely important to hear them both together, and I encourage you to do so. Now, Fall in Line, I have already reviewed on this channel. I will link in the description. I talk about this collaboration with Demi Lovato. It is an epic battle of the powerhouse divas sort of singing battle, you know, inspiring emotive performance with amazing vocal runs, amazing harmonizing. The beat is a little beat that you definitely just have to get used to, but I'm completely used to it by now. I speak about my review about it being a little off-putting at the beginning. The male vocal, you know, speaking about all these things that women are supposed to do, and them kind of calling back and like fighting against that. The music video, it shows again like women being like imprisoned and like being told to do things a certain way, and they're, you know, fighting against this sort of militant macho oppressive force. And it's very inspiring, and I love the way the song kind of just builds into this emotive like breakdown, and then it kind of just flies away, you know, like in this sort of ethereal manner towards the end, to make it just feel very transcendental. Definitely a highlight song, and is one of my favorite songs, if not my second favorite song for sure on this record. Demi and Christina are two of our best vocalists of, you know, I know they're technically different generations, but they're really strong vocalists that deserve to be in a song together. And I only wish that maybe Pink could have been involved in this song as well, because there were rumors that Pink and Christina were going to be collabing on this record. It's actually heavily rumored that the reason why this album didn't come out back in the fall and it was delayed even more was because of Pink's return. Pink be also featured. I feel like all their voices could have sounded really cool together. But either way, it's an amazing feat of a song. All right, so we change gears a little bit, and we get a little bit more hip hop in the next few tracks, a little bit R&B and sultry. Right Moves, featuring two Jamaican dancehall singers named Kaida and Shensia. Now, this song is a little bit of a grower. It's a slower track, but it's also very sensual. It's very sexy, and I enjoy it actually. I think it definitely harkens to a Jamaican trap dancehall style. Now, I know I hate trap music, but the dancehall kind of overcomes that in this case. The beat and rhythm is minimalist, and it definitely has that tropical flair. The vocals are not really anything to phone home about. If anything, I think the two featured artists kind of steal the show on this song for Christina. She's a little bit forgettable vocally on this song, but I don't think she was really going for that. It was just meant to be a kind of groove kind of track. Like I Do, featuring rapper GoldLink, was produced by Anderson Paak. I'm not really familiar with him, but I've heard of him before. I believe he's Korean. And he's a little bit of a hot, you know, songwriter producer at the moment. It took me a minute to warm up to it. I definitely think the synthesizer use is unique and interesting, the way it rises and falls. It's very shimmery, and it's again, it's a trap kind of hip hop R&B track song, which I kind of expected her to deliver. It's not too different from things she's done in the past, and I think it's average. It's not like one of the worst songs on this record for me, and it's definitely something that I think with repeated listens, you get like more kind of stuck in your head. But lyrically, it's a little bit, I don't want to say banal, but it's just, it's not serving a lot in terms of the lyrics. I'm Uncle Phil, you my Aunt Viv. I thought that was, that's in a rap that GoldLink does at the beginning. I thought that was a really interesting lyric there. It's a braggadocious song. You know, she's talking about how no one can quite do it like she does, and that all of these upstarts need to fall in line, ironically, and follow her lead, or let her put on the show, because she knows what she's doing. And if you want to do it with her, you have to do it a certain way, the right way. Deserve is a Julia Michaels song. It's a little bit forgettable for me. The production is actually quite a lot more electronic than I was expecting, but the production doesn't really save it. I think that Deserve lyrically is more important than it is melodically. This song talks about this repetitive cycle that she calls passive aggressive, which it quite is, of people feeling as though they're letting the other one down in a relationship, and they don't deserve them for the things they've done, but then at the end of the day, they realize what they have is so important that they want to rework through it, and then it's this, is this still like okay? Am I like slinging them along for the ride, or do they really deserve to be with me? Pondering all of this, and it's again, it's endearing enough for me, but it just feels a little bit like other songs overshadow it. We come to my favorite track on this record twice. After hearing the whole record, I still believe, and I was instantly grabbed by this song when it was released as a promotional single, that this is the standout song on this album. The harmonies, the vocal runs, the gospel, piano, instrumental, it just serves everything that you would want from the classics of Christina Aguilera. And in my opinion, the classics of Christina are songs like Hurt, songs like You Lost Me. These songs that just are so emotional, so theatrical, and so minimalist, and just really relying on her beautiful, beautiful voice to carry in an almost operatic fashion this drama of the emotion that she's carrying through in these lyrics, speaking about coming back to something that was possibly very toxic at the time, but realizing that it was the best thing for you. And that you would do it all again in the blink of an eye. Sometimes I wonder, what is the meaning of this life? I found the price of love and lost my mind. I will forgive them all of my wrongs and my rights. I do it all again and won't think twice. Regardless of any mistakes that were made along the way, of anything that might have felt like possibly being a waste of time, this is a reflective moment where you look back at your relationship history, you look back at the different people you've encountered, and you realize that it all happened for a reason. And there's a greater picture to why you met all these people and why things went the way they did. And you can really hear that reflective melancholy in her tone. And it's why it's the best song on this record for me, because it just serves everything you would want in the most beautiful harmonic fashion. You feel it when she says, "What is the meaning of my life?" The song feels lost, like it's searching for answers, and yet at the same time content knowing it won't find any, because it also is like the answer and the question at the same time. Like, what is the meaning of life? Oh yes, I know the meaning of life is that it doesn't make any sense and that I'm supposed to appreciate every waking moment. I understand this. And so it's like she's asking for forgiveness and also preaching to herself at the same time. Very beautiful, tinged on spiritual type track that I highly recommend. If you listen to one song on this record, let it be twice. I also reviewed it in a video, so I'll link that below when it came out as a promotional single. I Don't Need It Anymore, another short interlude. We come into Accelerate. I'm not going to spend too long on this track. Basically, I talk about how I think this song is a complete dud on this record. Guess who it's produced by? Oh yeah, Kanye West. And it features Ty Dolla $ign and 2 Chainz. Yeah, this song was obviously placed as just a marketing ploy to try and appeal to the current trend of SoundCloud rappers and hip-hop and urban trap music for dominating the charts. This was a terrible choice as a lead single. When you listen to it in the context of the whole album, it's not so drastically bad. This album is diverse, and you need something that's a little bit more like club ready. But at the same time, to lead with a comeback after 5.5 years, this was a horrible choice. And obviously for me, it's a skippable track. Even if it wasn't a lead single, I would not be saying good things about it. It's just not my style of music. It is not my taste. She's not doing anything vocally. It just feels very banal. Pipe, featuring rapper XNDA. Pipe is a much more urban hip-hop inspired track. Again, it feels very much something like Alicia Keys would do. And it's very glossy in its production. Very easy listening. And I definitely think her softer, refined vocals come through quite beautifully on this track and quite earnest. But there's not really a whole lot of variation in the melody on this song, and rhythmically, it's a little bit middle of the road. And again, it's not necessarily that it's something that I wouldn't necessarily listen to ever. I think it fits in the schematic of this album pretty well in terms of the theme and in terms of the sound. You know, is she talking about a pipe, like literally an old-fashioned pipe, or is she telling him to pipe down, like calm down? I want to celebrate you right now. I don't want to hear you jabbering away about all this stuff. Damn, boy, you remind me of my Jeep. I'm like, what? How does the boy remind you of your Jeep? Because he's old and reliable? But her flow is quite eloquent in this song, and I think it carries beautifully in a sort of, just this nice sort of summer groove. And it's very Alicia Keys. Masochist. This is a track that lyrically is quite honest, and I love that about it. Sometimes I get lonely, I get needy, I call you, and I know that it's crazy, that it's stupid, but it's the truth. I must be some kind of masochist to hurt myself in this way, because loving you is so bad for me, but I just can't walk away. I think many of us can relate to this so bad it's good sort of attraction that we have with people. It's not probably so healthy for us, and we think to ourselves, why are we doing this? You know, like, do we love just hurting ourselves? Ultimately, there's something there that you have to examine because there's actually something really important that either life is teaching you about this relationship, or there's actually something very beautiful and special that you have, and you're just failing to see that. You're apparently failing to look past some of the surface level things. And the one lyric I think that perfectly summarizes this is, I get all my pleasure in your bedroom, in your arms. You get all your pleasure from my torture, from my harm. But does she actually view it as torture in the moment, or is that something that retroactively she looks back and thinks, oh God, this isn't good? Because, it's sort of like a quick high, it's like drugs. It's like being with this person feels good in the moment, but it leaves you feeling down. Or is it actually in the moment painful and then you miss it when you're away from it? Those are two different kinds of uh, bad sort of relationships, and it's hard to tell exactly which one she's pointing towards. But it sounds ultimately like it's that sort of, it's so good in the moment that I can't look away, but afterwards I regret it, and that's why these songs are created. The production style is a little bit more unique. It's definitely not as hip hop, but I think it's just ultimately a little bit, it's not serving the melody of the song as well as I would like. So again, it's not a highlight song for me. It's just, again, a song that is there, which I think the meaning is so important. Like, it's something she needed to get off her chest. And it was presented in an okay way. But again, remember, please remember, this is just my opinion, and it is also coming from someone who is not a huge, huge Christina Aguilera fan, or someone who really listens to that much, like gospel R&B type music. Like, I'm not, that's not my style so much, although I do appreciate good vocals. We come to my second favorite track on this record, which closes out on a very beautiful romantic note, Unless It's With You. The concept and the sentiment of the song is so powerful, it really hit home for me. I don't want to get married unless it's with you. I don't want all of that fairy tale romance stuff. We barely know 100 people. I don't want to deal with that. It can be just a few close friends at our wedding. And I don't want any of that noise, unless it's you I'm with. And this is a feeling that is so, so powerful. It's the ultimate sort of sign that you found the one. Because a lot of us are not actually madly in love with the idea of marriage, but we find that one person that makes it all worth it. But you need to make sure that when you know you're with someone, is this person really someone who makes marriage worth it for you? I've had to ask myself this question quite a lot. And it's hard to come up with that answer sometimes, because ultimately, marriage is this really powerful thing, and it can be so bad or it can be so good, and it really all just comes down to how strong your love is. And this song comes off as this almost mourning, kind of like yearning for that love. Like, I haven't found it yet, but I'm thinking I might have found it with you. And it scares me because I don't know what this really is like. I've never done this before. So you can really sense that this is like a feeling of someone who's like had a lot of lovers, but they've never really been that serious. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh my God, this has gotten so serious. And like, well, I'm not the wifey type. So like, oh my God, this has got me feeling a certain way. Like, this is crazy. And I don't know how to interpret all of this. It's a beautiful, stripped back, just piano chords and soulful gospel vocals. Really sells on this track, that emotion. And so it is a definite highlight and a wonderful closer on this record for me. I definitely think Twice and Unless It's With You are two of the big standout songs, along with Fall in Line. The meanings behind it, the just very straightforward, honest, brutal kind of lyrics are so well composed and so well delivered. And the harmonies and vocal runs are just always A plus. She makes any sort of note sound gorgeous when she tumbles around these different key changes and everything. It's just phenomenal. The songs that are a little bit more like trying to be radio friendly, but that are also kind of just sort of middle of the road for me, there's a lot of them on this record. If I had to pick one song, obviously, that I really do not like and do not recommend, it would be Accelerate. I've already made that clear. It's not very surprising. I think a lot of Christina fans are in agreement there, let's be real. But ultimately, I think this song serves up a very diverse platter of things. It feels cohesive in that the narrative of being, upfront and honest is there, that there is some sort of dialogue going on between either her and herself, or her and a partner, and the concept of liberation, although I wish it was explored just a little bit more. I wish there was a little bit more soul-wrenching stuff going on this record. And I wish that, you know, the album sometimes was a little bit grander in parts, because the grandiose opening definitely makes you think that this is going to be quite some kind of experience, and some of the tracks just leave me wanting a little bit more. So that's my review of it. Again, I'm not a huge Christina Aguilera fan, so I'm definitely coming into this sort of expecting to be a little bit kind of middle of the road, like in terms of my opinion. And so I get really impressed when there's a song that like really like is something I want to listen to again, because there are several tracks that, because they're just not my style, I'm not exactly drawn towards wanting to come back to over and over again. I hope you enjoyed this review. Like I said, there's definitely some really standout, beautiful tracks on this record. Do not get me wrong. So as far as mainstream, you know, billboards, I'll be curious to see how this album sells. I'll be curious to see what she chooses as singles to promote, how this album is going to do overall. I really don't want it to flop. I really feel that it's a big step up from Lotus, and I feel that this is, again, this is a classic album of hers that is on par with Stripped and Back to Basics, which are her two strongest albums in my opinion. And I'm just so glad she's back, and she seems so liberated and jubilant and carefree and healthy. So I hope you enjoyed this review. Please give it a like and subscribe if you did. Please comment all your thoughts on this record, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Peace, love, and light. Bye.